Elka, do you want to read the stimulus?
The central claim of the end of history theory is that history has reached its final stage of development. According to its adherents, democratic ideals have triumphed over their rivals, and history is effectively at an ideological end. But this view fails to consider that it is impossible to stand outside all of history to judge whether history is really at an end.
Okay, perfect. Amani, what do you think is the main conclusion?
I thought the main conclusion was the part, but this view fails to consider.
Yeah, absolutely.
That little sentence, yeah. Because it has that shift.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about this central claim and then why its adherents kind of support this claim. And this is the author's opinion. It fails to consider it's impossible to stand outside all of history to judge whether history is really at an end. Okay, cool. So going into the answer choices, we're looking for something that can most reasonably be inferred from the historian's statements, so most strongly supported. Why, Aaliyah, why didn't you pick D?
I was initially thinking between D and A, but the reason I struck out D was if you read closely, it's saying it's impossible for the end of history theory to be true. So that's just too extreme. It's saying that it's impossible. As
I agree. Impossible. I mean, besides that being a strong word, that I wouldn't even say that's the main reason why this one's incorrect. The author too is just saying that it's impossible to stand outside of history to judge whether this theory, whether history is true or history is really at an end. Like the point of that theory, it's impossible to stand outside of it, but we're not saying it's impossible for the theory to be true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Perfect. Giovanna, why did you pick E? Oh, she gone. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking. I picked it because I picked the wrong conclusion, so I got the wrong answer.
Do you know why E is incorrect?
Well, because initially I chose ideological development, sorry, essential for history. Yes, because I don't. I'll be honest. No. So
sorry, before I answer, there's someone wanting to join the room. Nicole, do you have a student? Juan?
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's my student. We'll have to finish this question and then I'll have to go do my lesson.
Can I admit him?
What?
You want me to admit him?
No.
Okay. Sorry, Giovanna. E is incorrect because we don't necessarily know that ideological developments are essential elements in this theory. The only reason why they're mentioned is because the adherents to the theory have said that democratic ideals have triumphed and history is effectively at an ideological end. Just because it's at an ideological end, we don't know if its developments were essential to that theory. I know that's kind of like nitty gritty.
No. That's why I remember I got the wrong conclusion. So that's why it's a wrong answer.
Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome. Amani, why didn't you pick, or I can't remember what you picked, but
I chose B.
Okay, so why didn't you pick C?
Because the automatically, and I was honestly, again, with these questions confused. So I just said the best way is to just anything strong, take them out. So I took C out.
Even if it's supported. So if we were at the end of history, we would automatically know whether the end of history theory is true. Automatically, yeah, I would say it's probably strong in this, but we don't know that based off the stimulus too. It's a claim that history has reached its final stage, but the author is arguing, how can we even know that if it's impossible for us to be outside of it too? So it wouldn't even be supported whether it would be automatic. So perfect. C is incorrect. Elka, did you pick B? No. So why did you cross out B?
I didn't really feel like they talked about it, versus advocates have too ideological an understanding of history. Yeah, I didn't really feel like the author, the historian, really said that.
Yeah, so the advocates would probably just be its adherents that adhere to the theory, but we don't know if they have too ideological of an understanding of history. We similar to E, just
Mhm.
because history is effectively at this ideological end, we don't know if their reasoning for this theory is because their understanding is too ideological. They could choose to support this theory because they came up with it or they really like it for some other reason. It's not supported, essentially. So that leaves us with A. We can never know whether the end of history theory is true. This is, I would say, a perfect answer just because it basically is supported by the conclusion itself. How can we, if the way to decide if this theory is supported is for us to stand outside of history, like how the author's saying, this view fails to consider it's impossible to stand outside of history to judge whether it's on an end, then we can never know if the end of history theory is true. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes? Perfect.
And then I also, at the beginning, it says that the end of history theory is at its final stage of development. So they still haven't even come up with the total conclusion there. So that makes total sense. And then it's supported by the conclusion.
Yeah, we can never know if this is
Mhm.
true. And like
Yes.
exactly how the author says so. If we can't stand outside of history to judge it's in its final development or history is completely over, we'll never know. So yeah, that's the correct
Thank you,
answer.
Sabrina. You did well.